everybody. Rain means it's winter in Israel. It's almost Hanukkah, so I figured I would do a video explaining what this holiday means. Hanukkah is one of those Jewish holidays in which it's impossible to separate the holiday from the land of Israel. That's because it's quite literally a story that takes place here in the land of Israel more than 2,000 years ago. It dates back to the 2nd century BCE, and it commemorates the rededication of the Second Temple in Jerusalem. Archaeological remnants of the temple still exist in Jerusalem today, as does a portion of the wall surrounding the temple, which you can literally visit and touch in the old city of Jerusalem today. It's called the Kotel, or the Western Wall, and it's the holiest site in the world for the Jewish people because this is the epicenter of Judaism, and this is where Jews lived thousands of years ago and where Jewish life began. So what is Hanukkah all about? It's a story about religious freedom. Over the centuries, the Jews of Judea, or modern-day Israel, are conquered by many different people. In 332 BCE, Jerusalem is taken over by Alexander the Great. He's not a Jewish ruler, but he treats the Jews well and allows them to practice their religion. He's also the first ruler in 1,000 years that doesn't demolish the city of Jerusalem. Oh. Hi. Following the death of Alexander the Great, there are battles between those who want to rule Jerusalem, mostly between Seleucus of Syria and Ptolemy of Egypt. In 198 BCE, Antiochus III reconquers Judea from the Seleucids. During this time, Judea is still under autonomous control of the Jews, but the Jews start to assimilate to Hellenistic Greek culture. They even start to study Torah, or the Bible, in Greek, an ultimate sign of assimilation, and emphasis starts to move from Jewish spirituality to Greek physicality. In 174 BCE, power shifts to Antiochus' son, Antiochus IV Epiphanes, who's less than tolerant of the Jews. He desecrates Jerusalem and tries to get the Jews to assimilate by forcing them to worship Greek gods. Many observant Jews, like Mattathias and his sons, are threatened by this assault on Jewish culture and move to the surrounding hills around Jerusalem. Judaism and all Jewish customs are outlawed. Jews are forced to make sacrifices on Shabbat, the holy Sabbath. Circumcision is not allowed anymore, and Jews are not allowed to partake in any of their customs. They're not even allowed to study Torah, or the Bible. So any customs that Jews want to pass along to future generations have to be done in secret. And so they also have to study Torah in secret, and to do this, they hide their study of the Torah by playing the dreidel game. So this gambling game becomes a cover for when they hear Syrian soldiers approaching, which is a really big risk they're taking because the study of Torah comes with the threat of death. This cultural anti-Semitism threatens to destroy the Jewish people. And so one man, Eliezer, recognizes this, and when he is forced to eat a pig, which is a non-kosher animal, he refuses. In turn, he's tortured to death. There's also a story about a woman named Hannah and her 7 sons, which has been passed down through millennia, in which they too refuse to eat pig and are also tortured to death one by one. Side note, this is also a really important reason why it's important to understand our Jewish history, because part of the tactic of the Greeks was to assimilate the Jews so that they wouldn't know where they come from or who they were. We also see this happening today, in which history is revisited or rewritten, and some Jews do not understand the connection between Judea, Israel, and their culture, and the fact that Jews came from the Levant. Anyway, in 167 BCE, Antiochus takes over the temple in Jerusalem and dedicates it to the Greek god Zeus. The decree against the Jews, asking them to turn their backs on their culture and to eat pork, spreads out into the countryside and reaches Mattathias. It's too much for him and his 5 sons, but instead of standing up for their Judaism and being killed for it, a 3-year revolt ensues, led by Mattathias and his sons, including one of his sons, Judah Maccabee. Judah Maccabee and his small army, known as the Maccabees, end up defeating the Seleucids. In their fight for religious freedom, they end up reclaiming the Jewish temple in 164 BCE. The Jewish people finally have the temple back in their hands after years of idolatry and vandalism. But when the Jewish high priests go to light the eternal flame to rededicate the temple, they realize that Antiochus has destroyed all of the oil, or so they thought, until they find a small flask of oil. That small flask of oil is expected to last just 1 day, but it takes 8 days to make more oil and to go and get the oil and bring it back to the temple. Miraculously, that little bit of oil lasts for 8 days instead of 1, and the eternal flame burns continuously until the rededication of the Jewish temple. Hanukkah in Hebrew means dedication, and today we remember the rededication of the temple by lighting candles on each of the 8 nights of Hanukkah, increasing our light as we go, as we would increase our light figuratively in the world by bringing goodness to it. Now, because oil is at the center of this story of Hanukkah, we also celebrate the holiday by eating foods that are fried in oil. Foods like latkes, which are potato pancakes, and sufganiyot, which are jelly donuts. Today, the story of Hanukkah, which is a story of religious freedom, stands as a reminder of all that the Jews have overcome to stay a people. We are a minority in the world, but we have kept our history, our heritage, and our culture for thousands of years, which is a miracle in itself. More than 2,000 years after the story of Hanukkah, the Jewish people still face many of the same threats to our existence: religious intolerance, cultural anti-Semitism, and a desire to destroy our people, either physically, violently, like we saw on October 7th, 2023, or in an attempt to try and erase Jewish history by trying to rewrite it and trying to have Jews not understand where they came from. I'm Jewish. I'm from the Levant. That's this area, today known as Israel, once known as Judea. Israel still faces threats to its existence today, but as Judah Maccabee overcame the Syrian army, so will the Jews overcome Hamas, Hezbollah, Syria, and Iran. There's a lot that Jews are still fighting for: religious freedom, safety to live in our ancestral homeland. And this year, for the second year in a row, we are also hoping for freedom. Freedom for the 100 of the 251 hostages that are still being held today in captivity in Gaza. Jews around the world commemorate the miracle of Hanukkah, but this year we're also hoping for another miracle. We're hoping for the miracle of freedom, and that those 100 people still being held in captivity can finally come home. Happy Hanukkah, everybody, and may your light shine in the darkness.